Hello, I'm Pat O'Melia, and welcome to the Ward A runoff debate. We had our general election. We have the two standing candidates to become the next council person, or to continue to be the council person in Denise Ridley's case, for represent Ward F. Well, Ward A, excuse me. We were talking about Ward F. I'm still talking about Ward F. Who we have here today is Councilwoman Denise Ridley. She's been a councilwoman now 8 years in Jersey City. And we have Brandy Warren, who is trying to become the next council person in Ward A. Welcome to the debate. Let's start with an opening statement. Let's go with the newcomer. Brandy?
Absolutely. So thank you, Hudson Media Group, for hosting today's debate. Ward A, I am your singular voice for change in this debate. Brandy Warren, your candidate for City Council, looking forward to the opportunity to serve. Like many of you, I have found myself disappointed, dissatisfied, and somewhat disillusioned in the lack of representation and resources that we currently have in Ward A. On December 2nd, please come out and vote for change. Let me be that voice to represent you and not myself. Brandy Warren, 1C.
Thank you. Denise?
Okay, thanks, Pat, for moderating this debate. Thank you to Hudson Media Group for always staying engaged every election. I'm Councilwoman Denise Ridley. As you stated, I've been the councilwoman for the last 8 years. I'm running for a third term because I feel that we have work to continue. We've done a lot of work over the last 8 years. We have tangible, real results. We know that the city is unaffordable. I'm the only council person that has taken an active role in building affordable housing, and I'm building it right in Ward A. As we speak, there's work currently being done at Bayfront on 440, which is the largest mixed income development in the city with the most affordability of any project in the city, might be any project in the state. In addition to that, I'm an advocate for recreation. I've advocated for a recreation center not only in Ward A, but throughout the city, in each ward. The Ward A Recreation Center, I've already secured the first $1 million of funding for. In addition to that, I've inherited the Bergen Lafayette area of the city, and we know that there's been a firehouse that's been closed there. I advocated to get the work started there, and will be open in spring at the Holiday Street Firehouse. So I believe that, yes, there's a lot that still needs to be done in the city, and we're on the right path to get there. So vote for me, Denise Ridley, 3C.
All right, let's some of the format here. I'm going to be liberal with the time. I'm not going to run a timer. If you're going too long, I'll tell you. During the course of the debate, I'll allow you both to ask each other a question. There'll be two of those. Ask each other a question. And just try to be civil. Yeah, I don't mind, some drama here and yelling. That's cool, but let's try to be civil. You mentioned Bayfront. And 35% of Bayfront is going to be affordable.
Correct.
Affordable for who? Who gets those apartments? But that's one of our problems in Jersey City. We build affordable, but it's not Jersey City residents getting them. They're Brooklynites and Queens, that sort of thing.
Yes.
How do we protect Jersey City people to get those 35?
As I'm sure you know, Pat, we do have fair housing laws, so we do have certain standards that we have to abide by when we're offering housing. We want to make sure that Jersey City residents are getting in this housing. Some of the ways that we can do that is adjusting laws so that we give Jersey City residents a preference within the means of our law, and also with making sure we're marketing directly here. Sometimes we find that developers build buildings and they market to Manhattan, or we'll see those buildings in New York newspapers. And those are the things that we want to avoid because we want to keep our residents here in Jersey City. One of the biggest things that I'm proud of with Bayfront is that we were able to get so much workforce housing, because I get a lot of people that come to me and say they want affordable housing. They're teachers, firefighters, police officers, and I tell them you're not going to qualify, because the HUD standards for affordability that are then trickled down to the municipal level price you out of that, right? Because maybe you don't, maybe you have a decent job, but you're still living paycheck to paycheck. So that workforce housing that we included in there will catch some of those vulnerable populations that we're looking for. People who aren't rich, people who are working every day and might not be able to get into affordable or very low income housing. So we've done a good job of having a mix of everything in that Bayfront development because we want people to be able to stay in Jersey City.
Brandy, how would you assure Jersey City residents get those 35% affordable? How would you try?
What we would do is actually advertise the affordable housing to Jersey City residents. Affordable housing, we know, is a federal program. And so what we found is that people from outside Jersey City are actually able to take advantage of affordable housing. And so that doesn't necessarily work for residents who reside in, have been here, and desire to stay in Jersey City. But I'd like to add, as we think about Bayfront, we should acknowledge that that project has been in development for at least 7 or 8 years. The land itself costs taxpayers more than $150 million. And there are a lot of other challenges that we need to deal with as we think about Bayfront as a development. We need to think about the traffic that's already existing on 440 and what other infrastructural changes will be made with Bayfront. The 35% affordable housing is nice, but A, we need to ensure that it's actually marketed to and earmarked for Jersey City residents, and that we're taking the necessary steps with infrastructure so that it works for all of Jersey City.
I agree. We're talking about affordable housing. It's hard to have affordable if the city itself isn't affordable. How do you make the city affordable? You know, we got a budget, what is it, $740 million for the city? I got a school with a budget of $1 billion with a B plus. How do we make the city affordable? How would you bring down the cost of the city? Would you cut some departments, Denise? Would you? What are you doing?
So I believe that we have to get innovative, right? So some of the ways that I've tried to be innovative since being in office is we have to look for alternate sources of funding. I believe that we need a grants department in the city. Some departments are really good at applying for grants that help take the burden off the taxpayer. Others are not as good as applying for those grants. I think we need to do that. We need to do things similar to what I did at the time when Recreation decided to start charging for summer camp, right? I found non-taxpayer money that was then used to send those families to summer camp for free, because we had been sending them for free for year after year. I was the only council person to step up and to do that and to find funding to do that. We have to think outside the box. I wouldn't necessarily cut certain departments, because we actually need more staff in a lot of the departments, particularly DPW, traffic and engineering. We want to see more people on the streets cleaning up. So we have to find ways to be more proactive instead of reactive, and think outside the box of getting more funding into Jersey City. And we have to require more of developers, right? We have to require more of the developers that are here that we can make those requirements of. One of the things that I just did recently at the last 2 council meetings was to require developers to make sure that they're hiring minority contractors, right? We've already sat at the table with them. We have minority contractors right from the neighborhood, from Ward A, that are now sitting at the table with some of our city's larger developers that are now going to get work on these projects. So yes, we want Jersey City to be affordable. Each of these projects have affordable housing in them, but we also have to put people to work, because like you said, if we make it affordable, that's great, but people have to be able to stay here to get into those apartments, and we have to also make sure we're putting them to work.
Well, we don't have a lot of jobs like we did in my youth. I
Correct.
could walk out a door and get a job when I was a kid, and I did.
Right.
Those opportunities are gone. Journal Square was a great example of that. You go up to Journal Square and get a job. There are no jobs up there anymore, just a very expensive apartment.
Correct.
Brandy, how would you make Jersey City more affordable? Again, you got a high budget, you got a high budget for the schools. How do you get it affordable? How can you cut the property taxes?
So in terms of affordability, there are 3 ways that we can approach it. One would be to be more justifiable in our spending. We also need to work on reducing the number of abatements. The current council, as we know, voted for the $150 million abatement for the Pompidou. The current council most recently voted for another $30 million abatement. And so all of those abatements actually pull away from our budget. They benefit the developer and hurt the residents of Jersey City. So that's one way that we could look at it. We also want to look at our spending and how are we spending. What we found is that there are a lot of redundancies in our spending. I'll give you an example. IXP is a 911 operator company, and in 2018, they were given $213,000 just to conduct a study. They came back and earned a $40 million contract with the city, and we as taxpayers have not seen a return on that investment. There's been no improvement to date with our 911 system, and so that's one way that we should really look at justifying our current spending by the city council. And then these obligation agreements. Developers 20 years ago Jersey City was not as, it needed to be incentivized, and so we had to offer abatements. We had to make deals with developers, but we are so highly desirable at this point that we don't need to be offering all of the abatements. When developers come to Jersey City, they need to understand that they have to play by the rules and that we have commitment to our community. The commitment needs to be to the community. And as we take these necessary steps, we can then work to bring down affordability.
Can I
Yeah.
jump back in, Pat?
Yeah.
Because I know
You're doing
everybody
that,
throws around the abatement word, and abatement has become a bad word here in Jersey City. But I don't think that most residents realize that my entire time on the council, we weren't doing abatements. We didn't do abatements for almost 10 years, right? We just started doing abatements again last year with Bayfront, which is a city-owned project. Of course, we need to give ourselves that leeway. Everything else has been affordable housing included in the projects or existing affordable housing projects that are looking to extend their abatement. So we've extended abatements on senior buildings, on public housing, low-income housing. So yes, there have been new abatements that have popped up since last year, and all of those abatements have included a community give back or have with affordable housing and local jobs or union jobs. So I just want to make that clear.
She brought up Pompidou.
Yes.
I spoke in favor of the Pompidou, went to the council meeting. in
I
favor of
remember.
that abatement. My reasoning was, I didn't care if it was going to be a French museum. Yeah, I still say freedom prize. I don't care about it being a French. But I wanted the 100,000 square feet that we were getting in return for that abatement.
Right.
Chances are we're not going to have Pompidou there.
Correct.
I almost bet we're not going to have Pompidou there. What would you like to see in that 100,000 square foot of space that is the city's?
I think it's what I said at the beginning and the reason that I took the vote. Similar to you, I saw the value in the space, right? A lot of people associate that vote with the Pompidou, but it wasn't a vote for the Pompidou. It was a vote for that space. As a 15-year real estate professional, I can tell you that space is very valuable and will be valuable to the city, and the city doesn't own a lot of property here in Jersey City. So to have that space is something that is going to be profitable for the city for years to come, and they can do whatever they want with that space. What people don't report about that night that we took that vote is that we also put language in there so that it could be whatever we want, that it could be a rec center, that it could be whatever type of space we want. It wasn't designated to just be the Pompidou. We left room for it to be whatever the city wanted it to be, because who knew if the Pompidou was going to happen or not, right? We had to pull back from that. I publicly pulled back from that. It wasn't moving forward, and we shouldn't spend any more money on it. But at that same time, if you pay attention to what I was advocating for at the time, was a recreation center in every ward, and that legislation that we passed said that that can be a rec center. So if anything, I got Ward C their rec center.
Brandy, what would you do with the what would have been the Pompidou space?
So I think a rec center is definitely a good idea. I just don't know that I agree that we should have moved forward with that at the tune of $150 million, especially to the taxpayers. And so what we could do is make that space available to the community. What I would do is tap into residents, find out what it is that exactly residents would like to do with that space. But a rec center is certainly a great place to start, just not at the tune of $150 million.
Well, it was going up either way. We wanted 100,000 square foot of space. We had to make a deal there. I would like to see it used for some retail, because we had the other Pompidou location. Again, this is a Ward C issue, but since they're city-owned properties, that's why I'm bringing it up to you. What do we do with the original Pompidou space?
The Pathside building?
Yep.
I've said it before. I thought that we should sell that and get revenue for the city. As we've said, we've spent money. We need to utilize the resources that we have to generate additional income.
Randy, what do you do with the old pet side?
So before we get to the Pat side, we need to acknowledge that land is a non-renewable resource. And yes, selling it at this point does make sense, but it's only because the budget is so out of whack, it's so upside down, and our spending has been mismanaged and in some cases misappropriated. But in terms of the PATH station, I would like to see that space refitted, either for transportation or the community again.
I could see putting community center there and going retail on the newer Pompidou
Retail
spot.
in the newer building?
I could see me getting some studio space in there for my high school programs teaching kids.
You have ulterior motives,
Yes,
Pat.
I had a reason. I spoke about that space long before the other Pompidou came up. And One of the things in the debates that came up, and we're talking about affordability, is universal rent control. Brandy, where would you be on universal rent control? That's from one family unit to whatever. Right now, there's no rent control on 5 and down, right? 5 units and down. Would you be in favor of universal rent control in Jersey City?
I don't, Jersey City is such a diverse city in more than ethnicity and socioeconomic status, and we cannot, I don't believe in one-size-fit-all answers. And so to say that we should have universal rent control, I think it would have negative impacts across the board. And so at this time, without doing further research, I would say, no, I'm not in favor of universal rent control.
Denise?
As a landlord in this city and property owner, I don't feel that we do enough for our property owners, our taxpayers here. I am all for making sure that we take care of the renters. This is a large renter city, but we have a lot of seniors, a lot of working people who own these 1 and 2 family homes, and we have to be careful what restrictions we put on them. Now, no, we should not allow them to just raise the rents astronomically. I'm not saying that, but we have to be very careful, because when we protect one side, we have to make sure that we're also protecting the other side. For instance, we had a lot of property owners who were struggling during COVID. Yes, we knew that it was difficult. People were losing their jobs, and some people couldn't pay rent. But the taxes didn't stop.
Nope.
Taxes didn't stop. The heat didn't stop.
Mortgage didn't
we still
stop.
had to
All those bills
water.
didn't stop. Yep.
None of those stopped. There was no relief for the property owners. So I think we need to do a better job of looking at both sides and making sure we're putting protections in place for our renters and also for our property owners, and that we are not disrupting the people who have paid into our tax system here in Jersey City.
I agree with you.
Pat, I'd like to add, most recently I met with a couple and seniors who are both retired, and they own the home that they live in as well as other property in Jersey City. They love Jersey City and want to stay here, and we actually spoke about this very topic. And what they were asking me about was the concept of the rent $1,000 and under. And what their concern specifically was, how can we compete if the city itself was going to provide this $1,000 and under rent, knowing that they have to deal with taxes and all of the other fees associated with home ownership. And so that's definitely a concern, thinking about all of our landowners, all of our homeowners, and all of our property owners.
Well, that'll be a question we have for James Solomon on Friday here during his live debate. But I agree with both of you. Yeah, it's hard to put a hindrance on a young couple that lived in their mom's basement for years just to get an $80,000, $100,000 down payment, then struggle to pay the mortgage. Hopefully they got a rent from a second or third apartment. Then we're going to step in and say, oh, it's universal rent control. That's wrong. I got my daughters in real estate. We're looking for more real estate for them to invest in. It's not their job to come up with cheap rent. But if you overcharge people on rent, you won't have a good tenant for long.
Correct.
My kids' tenants, they've been there for years now, so it's a good rent, but we don't need to put any hardships on young couples or people. It's hard enough to buy a house in Jersey City. Speaking of houses, in your ward, there's a lot of new construction, a lot of 2-family, 3-families going up. The new construction has a driveway cutout. Many of your old units didn't have a driveway cutout. Are you in favor of continuing those driveway cutouts, because they're impacting the parking in Ward A? It's the same as I'm in Ward D. Every time they put up a new house, there was no driveway before. Now there's a driveway that has a spot out of the lottery when you come home at night and you're going around the block looking for a spot.
Absolutely.
Right. I think.
What would you do, Denise, to try to put a hindrance on that driveway cut?
It's an issue, right? Because if you cut the driveway, then you allow those residents to use the garage, right? You don't cut the driveway, that car is now on the street in addition to all the other cars on the street. So I think in general, we have to figure out our parking problem. When I first took office, one of the first things that we did was attack parking, right? We added close to 100 new parking spots to the ward. We went to places like Sullivan Drive, where there was no parking on one side of the street. Nobody knew why. It said that it wasn't hindering any traffic. There was no reason. We restored it. We looked at the no parking from here to the corner signs. Some of them were too far back. We changed those. We changed certain streets to angle parking on one side in order to fit more parking. And even with all of that, parking is still a huge issue, right, in the city. A lot of residents are looking for permit parking. And I don't discourage them for that, but it kind of pushes the problem along. If we look at Hoboken, we look at Bayonne, they have permit parking through their entire city. And I think that it might be time for Jersey City to look at something similar during certain hours, because I get a lot of requests for permit parking from residents from block to block to block. So I think we are really going to have to take a look at our parking problem. At one point, I have some residents that say, well, you know, maybe we should build parking garages. And, you know, that's something we looked into, but you can't have one on every corner, right? And how far are you going to walk from that garage to your house late at night, right? If you live 6 blocks away, you're not going to do that.
There's no zone parking in Ward A?
There is zone parking in certain areas near NJCU, near the light rails, but throughout the entire ward, no, there is not.
How the hell did we miss that?
So.
Oh, I'm surprised. That's something whoever gets you get reelected, you get elected. I'd look at putting
But
permit parking in there.
the other issue is, Pat, the areas that we do have that parking in, we have to make sure that it's being enforced. So we can put up a sign, but if we're not properly
Next question. Parking enforcement.
right, if we don't have our public safety department, which now parking authority falls under, making sure that people are abiding by that rules, then it's kind of pointless.
Brandy?
Parking is a very, very persistent issue, concern, and challenge throughout Ward A. I think you presenting this idea of maybe changing the number of new parking spaces,
New
the
curb
parking
cuts for
spaces
these
that we're
driveways,
taking
yeah.
away with new construction when we allow the curb cuts is something to think about, because what I've found in walking around and speaking with residents most often is that the residents who have driveways, they don't use them. They're not parking in their garages. And on the one hand, that's a personal prerogative. But the reality is, again, we have this significant parking issue throughout Ward A. And so I think looking at lining and marking the streets, that might help us gain some more parking spaces. And then the idea of the permit parking will help us. But I think there's more than one way to solve that solution. And so we'll have to look at a number of ways to do
Well, you
that.
definitely got to take some steps. I'm surprised there's no permit parking in A like that. How we missed that?
Yeah, certain
Residents are
areas.
asking for it. They've most definitely expressed it to me.
I used to do PR for the parking authority when Glenn Cunningham was the mayor. I used to go to all the meetings. They always wanted it. They always wanted enforcement. That's my next question. Parking enforcement in Ward A. Is there any?
There is, but as I stated earlier, it needs to improve. We have this parking division. They're responsible for ticketing with the sweeper, right? They drive with the sweeper. They're also responsible for enforcing any parking violations that they see throughout the city, and they're understaffed. We need more staff members in the parking enforcement division if we're going to effectively address what we just discussed, parking issues, right? If we're going to be effective, or if we're going to move to permit parking, or if we are going to line the streets. And by the way, lining the streets, we would have to meet the state standards of how wide a parking spot should be. We don't really park that way in real life in Jersey City. So
Well, we can follow what Union City does. Brian Stack's
yes.
running around. I think he's painting them himself.
Yes, but keep in mind, because when we have this conversation with residents, when we do paint the lines, which is good because it lets everybody know where they should be, but there's going to be less parking spots because we have to stick to the state standard of how wide that spot is, and that's not necessarily how we currently fit cars in Jersey City on our own. But yes, we have to staff the parking enforcement. Right now, they're understaffed, and they're not doing an adequate
You've been a councilwoman for 8 years. Why is it understaffed? Because that's an ATM machine for the city, the parking enforcement.
It is
and
an
the
ATM
revenue's
machine.
way down, by the way, from parking enforcement.
It is an ATM machine, but we also, have residents who feel like we give out too many tickets, right? So we want to have a good balance, but if you're in violation, you're in violation. So over the last, I would say, 8 years, the parking authority has changed hands. Now it's under the purview of the police department. Before we had a parking director that wasn't
That's coming up.
a member of the police force. And we got to do better. Like I've said in previous debates, we haven't had the best relationship with public safety. The Council on Public Safety hasn't had the best working relationship. That's not a secret. We've done the vote of no confidence. That's all public information. And this administration, whoever it is, has to mend that relationship and work and stand in that gap and say, hey, look, there are things that need to change. There are ways we can do things better. And it can't be an us versus them. It can't be administration versus the council. It should be how can we work together for the better of our residents? Because I can tell you everybody on that council has made suggestions.
Yeah, no, I followed that whole saga.
Yeah.
Randy,
So
what do you do about parking enforcement of an A? if you're
So
the
we
councilwoman?
definitely need a solution. We need a solution. We have to come together. There is the parking authority, and then we can also utilize some of the police department. Not that that would be their primary role or responsibility, but we certainly need to look at it as a way that we can
Well, they
collaborate.
can write a parking ticket to police department.
They
yeah.
can, but there are some other challenges and issues right now within the JCPD as it relates to their staffing, that's not always the most effective use of their time, right? And so we need to ensure that the parking authority is properly staffed and fully staffed so that they have the resources they need so that we can enforce the laws, because parking is in fact doesn't impact your quality of life. I can tell you, as someone who arrives at home and has to drive around the block a number of times, sometimes 30 minutes,
Citizen patrol.
we
Right
definitely
around.
need to reach
Yep.
a solution on the parking issue in Jersey City, and we need to do it swiftly.
Well, one of the things, before getting back to parking, making some parking, we don't always have to build a garage. We can just have a house that was demoed, and you can put 10, 15 spots right there. That's what we did on my block on Congress. We demoed a house when Brett Sumner was the mayor, and we put a parking lot there. And that's been there for the last 20-some-odd years. And I'll fist fight anybody who tries to take that parking spot away. Another thing, about driveways, my house, I can't have a driveway. There's a moratorium on it for carports. The day I take that fuel tank out of that house and go natural gas, there will be a driveway in there, that tank right in front. It's not fair that I can't have a driveway when all these new houses around me are getting driveway.
No curb cuts for you.
Yeah. I'll fist fight anybody that tries to take my
You're telling
driveway.
on yourself.
No curb cuts.
Public safety.
Okay.
Would you reorganize it? Would you disband it? Would you go back to what it was before? But I'll go with Brandy on this one. Right now, everything's under one roof, Brandy. I'm sure you know.
Right.
But in the old days, it wasn't that way. Fire was alone, parking authority was alone, police were alone.
And so professionally, I'm a director at New Jersey City University. And in that role, I am responsible for training teachers, teacher education. And so in my work, I would never send a school nurse out to supervise, observe, or assess a pre-K teacher, or reversely. And so, yes, I would like to see the fire department led by the fire department leading themselves, as well as JCPD, as well as having someone in parking authority. We definitely need to have independent leadership in each of those aspects of our public safety for areas of expertise in terms of experience. I myself, you need to have walked the walk in order to fully understand what is needed, what is required, boots on the ground. And so ultimately, yes, fire department should be led by fire and JCPD by JCPD.
Would you bring the parking authority back to an autonomous agency?
More than likely, without further research, I would say yes.
Denise, reorganize, disband, leave it as it is? Probably not leave it as it is, but go ahead.
No, we definitely have to reorganize and change the culture, right? A lot of cities switched to the public safety director model. I believe it was after Sandy. And there was some research and even possibly some laws around it to make sure that all of public safety is responsive and together during an emergency, right? With that being said, it's not necessarily the model that is the problem of having a public safety director if they are, in fact, doing what they were put there to do, right? Like, you're there to oversee the ship and make sure that everything is in one area. But you have to let the chief of those departments run their show. And I think that's where the problem is. So if there's a chief of the fire department, there's a chief of the police department, they need more leeway to run the day-to-day operations. And right now, from what I'm getting from feedback from those who are in those seats, that's not what's happening. And therein lies the problem. We can't have one person running the show of all of these agencies, especially if they're not as equipped as the person who's the chief, as the person who's running into burning buildings. So I believe that we have to get back to allowing the chief to be the chief. We have to get back to allowing these departments who know the drill to run their show. And sure, they can report into one person if that's what you want them to do, but that person should be operating the organization, not the day-to-day.
It should be the chairman of it, in a
Right.
sense. Well, we have a new police chief in Robert Kearns.
Correct.
I don't
Ward A
think anybody's going to
resident.
be telling Robert Kearns how to run the police department.
You don't need to tell him how to run the police
I don't
department.
think Bobby's going to take any of that. Would you bring the parking authority back to an autonomous agency?
Yes, I would.
I would,
would.
too.
I definitely would.
Would you bring back the incinerator authority?
You know, I don't think that that's a bad idea. I wasn't there for the
Because we're coming up to the garbage contract. That's
yes,
coming. That's
let's
coming.
talk about that.
Yeah.
I do not think that that is a bad idea. I would love to see us take garbage back as a city and create more jobs doing that.
Well, don't
And
jump.
that's-
Don't jump the question.
Oh,
It's coming.
okay.
That's coming. That's coming. That's coming.
All right,
That's
I'll
coming.
pause.
So you would bring the parking enforcement back in under to an autonomous agency.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that worked better for us. MLK and Ocean Avenue.
Okay.
That's part of your ward, right? Even though I'm
Correct.
trying to figure out how these wards are driven. Brandy, are you in favor of making MLK a one-way in one direction and Ocean in a different direction, in the opposite direction?
So, I am not a traffic expert, but I am very much in touch with the voices of the residents in Ward A who would be directly and immediately impacted and affected by one-way streets on these two main roads. There is serious concern for our seniors. On Ocean Avenue alone, within about a 10-block radius, there are at least 5 senior homes. Many of those seniors do not drive and they utilize public transportation. When we think about parents and families who walk children to and from school or use public transportation for that purpose, or even your own vehicle, the resounding response has been no, that is not what we want, that is not what we need. So I would be in touch representing the voice of the people. I would have to say no.
Denise, one way each direction and a different direction for MLK and Ocean?
Absolutely not.
Who came up with that idea?
I've said this time and time again. That's something that has been floated since I was in office, and we've always said no. And then apparently there was a tweet. I'm not a big Twitter fan, so I didn't see this tweet, but there is a tweet that came out. But I think we have to be careful and not allow our communities to be gaslit by social media tweets, right? There is nothing that came before the council with a proposal to turn any streets into one-way streets. There's no proposal for MLK in Ocean. There's no proposal for MLK in Bergen. The council has never received that. When Traffic and Engineering wants to make a change, they send us a proposal. We have received proposals for other changes with the traffic study, et cetera. We have never received that. So I agree, the residents do not want it, and I think you have to listen to the voice of the residents in those areas. There may be another area of the city where they do want some of those changes, and we need to listen to the voices of the people that are going to be most impacted. So it's a no for me.
Neither one of those streets are narrow streets. They're wide streets. And I think if you ask most residents, because we just went through it in St. Paul's Avenue, in what is now Ward C, where they
Yeah.
wanted to make it go one way
Right.
east. That didn't work out.
No, that
I'm
didn't
born
work
and
out.
raised there. I couldn't understand why we were doing it. All right, listen.
Pat,
Go ahead.
as we talk about the one-way street issue in Ward A, it really comes back to a comment you made earlier about the redistricting and how it has actually impacted the fabric and the makeup of our neighborhoods. And when we look at Ward A really does reflect the diversity of Jersey City, in that there are so many communities who have actually very varying needs. And we have to be very, very careful as a representative of the ward to not be more mindful of what one area of the ward needs versus what another area of the ward needs. And so when you think about Ward A, what happens and goes on in Lafayette may not be what's needed up in Greenville. And so again, you just have to be very, very mindful of being in touch with the residents, hearing their voices, knowing what their needs are, and then representing them based on their needs.
No, I think you just need to be practical up there. And those streets don't require, turning them into one ways in each direction. All right, let's break for a 5-minute intermission. You're watching the Ward A runoff debate. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Ward A runoff debate. What we have is our two candidates is current Councilwoman Denise Ridley and her opponent, Brandy Warren. Let's pick it back up. Before we start, I'm going to allow you guys to ask one question of each other right now. Brandy, ask something of Denise.
So, Denise, one of the concerns I've heard over and over again as I've walked Ward A for 18 months, corner to corner, block by block, and you've heard me say it door by door, is that you haven't been very visible, you haven't been very present. And so what residents are asking themselves now is, if you haven't done it in 8 years, why should they be convinced that you'll do it now?
Gotcha. Okay. So what I would say to that is, I have taken an approach this time around of doing more of the work. And maybe in that, I have seen like I'm not present, but I've literally been working to make sure that some of the issues that we have discussed today get addressed. For instance, the affordable housing, like, you know, it sounds easy and it sounds like, okay, get a developer to build it, but we actually had to do a lot of work to get to that point. A lot of work with the state, a lot of looking for developers who were willing to build affordable housing, because affordable housing is a good thing, but it's a difficult thing to build. So I've traveled from New Brunswick to Queens to even to Boston. I've taken day trips on a plane to go see work that developers from throughout the area have done to make sure we choose the right developers to come here, to come to Bayfront. I've also fought to make sure that we have a minority developer at that project. It's the largest project in the city, and we need representation. We always pride ourselves on diversity. Doing those things were not easy, and it did take away a lot of my time. I also sit on boards. Not every council person sits on boards. I'm on the JCRA, I'm on the Jersey City Employment, the small business incubator over at B-Hub. I'm on that board. So it's not just me showing up at council meetings or me being available for events. I've actually been trying to do the work, and even getting the rec center done. You know, securing that first $1 million of funding, that took work between the city and the state. There were many applications. So I have been very ingrained in the work and getting the work done. And that could have maybe come across as me not being as engaged with the community. But I did choose to really focus on getting the work done this term.
Denise, do you have a question for Brandy?
Brandy, one of the questions that I have received is, you know, some residents are concerned that, you know, you moved out of the city for some time and now you're back and you want to run for council. And it gives the feeling that if we weren't good enough for you to stay, now you're back, why should we put you in that seat when you left?
Right. So to answer that question, I have two sons. My sons are 22 and 23. At the time that we temporarily relocated, as is allowed by the Board of Elections, every New Jersey resident is allowed to maintain a temporary and a permanent residence. Never sold my home in Jersey City, never rented it out, never had utilities in anyone else's name because we knew we were returning. But the culture in Jersey City, while you were councilwoman, put my sons at risk. And so because there was no recreation, there was limited police presence, we had to make a decision in order to do what was best for our children. And any parent out there, I know you understand that when your child is in a position or in a predicament, you will take action. I'm not a person who identifies a problem and doesn't take action. As a family, we identified a problem, we drafted a solution, and we executed. The minute our son was finished his college studies, we returned to our family home in Jersey City, where I was born and raised, and where I'll stay.
All right. Now, follow up on the affordable housing. Why can't we build affordable housing like we used to, like Curry Woods? When I was a kid, we moved to Curry Woods back in 1966. We were escaping Dogpatch, Jersey City. We were moving on up. We were at 71 Mirror Street, 7C was our apartment. beautiful buildings. I think there's only one left. I think either it's 1 or 3 Heckman Drive.
3
And,
Heckman.
and we had the Holland Gardens, we had Montgomery Gardens. Why can't we build low and middle income housing like that? Why can't low and middle income people live in high rises? And we can take that footprint and build many units of
Okay.
affordable. And in the old days, it was the feds, the state, the county, and the municipality. Now we make devil deals with the developers for affordable housing. Why can't we do it like we used to?
So, as I'm sure you know, Pat,
don't.
all of those, all of the
I only act like I do.
the housing developments do fall under HUD as well, which is a federal program, and they did move away from that model. Now, in doing that, what I found and the feedback that I get from residents is they actually like this new layout a little better. Being stacked on top of each other in buildings didn't seem to create the best environment. So when I talk to people now who are in townhomes similar to what we have at Carey's Woods or Lafayette Village, that actually gave a better environment, right? So I find that a lot of people like that model. Now, one of the things that we are working on now with Holland Gardens, those will be buildings, right? And it'll be newer buildings with those residents moving into brand new apartments, just like everyone else in that building. So that's now becoming mixed income. I would like to see a lot more mixed income projects, right? Because we do a lot of sectioning people off. So we put everybody that has the same income in one area. How are you getting people to grow that way? I think we should all be mixed up, and that's similar to the project that's starting now at Holland Gardens.
What do you think of that idea? Building like we used to, affordable housing. But the rich people can live that well. They don't have a problem being stacked.
So Pat, you took the words out of my mouth. I think it's contradictory for us to say that we will tear down housing developments that are multiple levels, yet we look at our skyline and there are countless luxury developments, some of them 50 stories high. And so we have to recognize what the current administration is focusing on, what they're intentional about. And so, yes, HUD does set the standard, but what are we actually supporting in our city, in our decision making? And so the low quality townhomes, many of them that are built, I don't agree with them. I do believe that when we build affordable and low income housing, it should be of better quality and a higher standard.
Speaking of low quality, garbage pickup here in Jersey City. Presently, are we going out to contract again now? Is that what the deal is?
Yes, so the contract, when it's up, we will go out to bid. What we found is that there seems to be this agreement amongst the companies that they all have their own area. So when we go out to bid, there is one response.
That's collusion.
Right. There's one response. And that's what happened the last time, because the entire council was in favor of getting rid of the current garbage company, and we did not receive any additional bids when we went out to bid.
Do we want to go with a contract, Denise? Do you want to go with another contract, or do you want to go in-house?
I would like to go in-house, but that's easier said than done, right? So it's going to take time. And we can't just turn around tomorrow and say we're going to collect the garbage. It's a
But we have to
process.
start.
Right, but we do need to start that process. So it might be that we need another contract with the garbage company until we can get to that point, but it is something that we definitely need to start the process on.
Brandy, another contract or go in-house with it?
I would say that we should go
We gotta
in-house
find that.
I would say that we should go in-house with our trash collection. We've done it for years, but I would like to point out that the current council did vote for an MUA franchise deal that costed the taxpayer millions of dollars.
That was a big mistake we did there. What
would
we
agree,
should do,
Pat.
and years ago when Brian Platt was there, before I got into television and politics and all, I used to run repair shops. And I wrote the whole outline on how we could go in-house with that. From the garbage trucks, the steam, to welders, the hydraulic mechanics, all that. And Pat Stramato also had one. And
Okay.
we looked at that. For that matter, we need to find that drilling somehow. For that matter, Brett Schundler at one time, the reason there's a transfer station on 1 and 9 and Broadway was the city to go in-house instead of going over to Doremus Avenue. We have the ability here in Jersey City, and we have the land down where I mentioned before, Dog Patch, Jersey City, at the foot of St. Paul's Avenue, to do this. You just have to have the will to do it, and we can bond for it. We have awful garbage. I don't know how bad. I know D, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It is absolutely terrible. I don't know how bad it is in
And we
A.
get the complaint from every ward in the city.
It's as if they got bad aim. They can't get it in the garbage truck. There's garbage all over the place. It is atrocious. And we're paying, what's it between the tipping fees? I think the tipping fees are 18 million, and we're paying another 18 million for the pickup. So we're somewhere at 36 to 40 million a year in that.
We should bring it back.
Yeah.
Bring it back in-house and
And it
create
got so out of
jobs.
hand that we have a garbage tax now. And yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah,
So we're all in favor?
Aye.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
How many complaints do you get on the garbage pickup? Because it's so bad.
Yeah, it's not every garbage night, but at least a couple times a month.
But then you look at North
they-
Bergen and Union City, they did their own garbage pickup. It can be done.
Right. And they have enlisted some night supervisors, so now I have those numbers. So now that I have, they have enlisted those supervisors and we have direct contact with them, it has gotten a little better, but it's still not where it needs to be.
We need to start that going in-house. Is that the MUA again, or is that the council?
That, I would say we should be able to handle that through, well, most of our incinerator employees went over to DPW. So DPW is the first stop that comes to my mind. We have a sanitation department in DPW.
Wouldn't hurt to take some of those guys and go back to the incinerator authority, like we said before, and
Correct.
have them concentrate on the garbage, and then do shared services with the school and dumpster repairs, all those sort of
And
things.
we do handle school garbage,
We picking that up now?
currently, so.
No, getting back to Martin Luther King, Martin Luther King Drive. How can we help Martin Luther King Drive along, bringing it back to the shopping district it was one time? Now, there's been your administration made many efforts on MLK. You got the annex there now, you put the police headquarters are there. Glenn D. Cunningham and Brett Schundler put the hub in there, but nothing really seems to kick what we need to kick in MLK. What can be done?
On MLK Drive, as you said, there have been strides to improve that area. I think one of the things that we can do, let me start here. Ward A, our longest commercial corridor is Ocean Avenue, and is not MLK Drive. So I've been pushing
Well,
to
both of them
have
were major
more-
shopping districts at one
Correct.
time, yeah.
So I have been pushing to restore that commercial district of Ocean because sometimes I feel like they get left out of the conversation. And as you said, they were both good commercial shopping districts, but focusing on MLK Drive, what I believe we need to do, yes, we've made many investments in Ward F at the hub, hoping that that would then trickle out, and that has been a slow process. I believe that we have to find a way to better fund the special improvement district there. We have an SID. Our SID is not as profitable as SIDs throughout the city, for example, Exchange Place or historic downtown.
Well, it's a different
SIDs.
world down there, yeah.
Yeah, you
Tale
know,
of
the
two
rents are
cities.
higher, they have a higher assessment, and it's a little unbalanced and unfair to, you know, look at other places in the city that have these special improvement districts and then look at MLK when the rate isn't the same. So we have to make more investments there and be more equitable with what's going on the avenue. One way that we can do that is when we are doing these developments and we're building and people are offering affordable housing, I would love to see some of those givebacks go towards MLK. Just because you are building something doesn't necessarily mean that all the givebacks have to stay within that building or within that community. We're one city. So if there's something that developer can build while they're building that building in Ward E that can benefit Ward A, I think that we should do it.
Brandy, what would you do to help push MLK and Ocean Avenue along?
So before I get into what I would do, I can tell you what I would not do is vote, as the current council has, to raise fees for small businesses that prohibit them from conducting business. That's what the current council did. What I would do is work with developers, making sure that they have an obligation to our community. But there also has to be some community building. So we need a stronger, we need to do better with our community policing, having a police presence so that people feel safe, they feel secure, and they're there. And the area alone needs to be more appealing. And so again, working with the developers to improve the area, bringing more affordable and low-income housing so that the people that actually love that community can remain in that community and not feel as though they're being marginalized or pushed out.
Can we possibly have like a corporate recruitment, somebody who can recruit businesses to MLK and Ocean Avenue, and maybe give like a 5-year, I want to say a pilot or some sort of a tax deduction to cut the overhead somewhat for a new business on Ocean or MLK, to just trying to accelerate it?
I think those are all like innovative ways that we need to try. We
Because
have
like
to
the
do it.
LaFracs do it. The LaFracs do it
Yeah.
in Newport. There's like a
Right.
little Jersey City there. They go out and recruit businesses to
Right.
come. I don't
And
know
I
what they're
believe-
offering, but they get those businesses to
Correct.
come to Newport.
And as I mentioned, we have the small business incubator right there on MLK. Now we have a new director, former Councilwoman Mira Prinzeri, and I know she's been very active in trying to find new and innovative ways to activate businesses, to give them more support. We just gave out grants to businesses to support their rent. So there is a lot going on in the city, but we have to do more.
We got to get that message out. Well, you guys have got a lot going on in A down on 440 there, business-wise, by Kellogg Street
Pat,
there.
I'd like to respond to the idea
Yeah.
about bringing corporations in on MLK and or Ocean
Well, it'd be
Avenue.
small businesses. That just mean corporate recruitment.
Right,
Small
corporate
business
recruitment. I just think if that's what it comes to, we need to be very mindful, again, of the residents who currently live there and thrive there. We have to walk away from this mindset of someone from the outside can come in and make us better than we are. That's not necessary.
Oh, yeah. If that person on MLK or Ocean Avenue has an idea and a dream, and between maybe the redevelopment agency, we can make that happen, we
Yeah.
should do that.
Yeah.
I believe that, that area of the city is looking to keep its character. And, we have a lot, that's a heavy residential area, and we're not looking to force big corporations into that area, but we would love mom and pop shops, more restaurants, fruit stands. It needs
We
to
just
be a
got to try to
walkable
attract them
neighborhood.
there, and it's got to be, financially feasible.
Feasible.
For them.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because there's not a lot going on up on the drive of Ocean right now, but we can push it a little bit.
We can definitely do better.
Maybe if we had more public transport. VIA, how popular is that up in A?
So VIA is popular right before the shutdown, right before COVID. It was an option that we were looking at during COVID, and right before we were losing a lot of the small bus lines. Now the city doesn't control the buses, they're independent companies, so we had to figure out a way to bring more transportation into the ward. That was an option for us to start our own rideshare service through VIA. I know a lot of residents use it. I would like to expand that because I feel like we need more VIA vans, but that can't be our only source, right? So another thing that we've done in Ward A, I made sure that we brought the ferry back to the ward, right? Ward A had the only ferry stop where you didn't have to pay for parking. You park on the street, get right on. They left during COVID, so we were able to get New York Waterway to come back to Ward A, and now we have ferry service again on the southern end of the city. In addition to that, we purchased the terminal, so that should New York Waterway ever decide to walk away again, we have the option to call in another service. I know Bayonne has been looking at different services, so we wanted to have that option available. I do believe that we should look into something similar to what Hoboken has, where they have a shuttle, a van that goes through the city.
That loop, yeah.
Yes, the loop. We definitely have to improve transportation in all areas of the city, particularly in areas where we don't have a major transportation hub like the Path, like Journal Square or downtown. So in other wards, we need those extra measures to help us get from one place to another.
I understand that VIA is subsidized by the city of Jersey City to about $7 million a year. Is that the best use of that 7? Should we go into like a shuttle service, a bigger bus?
I believe we can reduce that if we do, like I just mentioned, start a shuttle service. So we have to think of newer ways to get around. So at the time, yes, it was a good move. It was COVID, it was available, and we needed to get our residents around. But it's time to start looking at some other services.
There's got to be another way we can have her. Because at one time, in Brandy Lifelong, every main street in Jersey City had their own bus. There was
Right.
Montgomery Street, there was Bergen
Yeah.
Avenue, there was Garfield Avenue, there was Central Avenue. All those buses are gone.
And
We have a
we-
larger population, but we have no
Correct.
bus service anymore.
And we
That's
were
because we don't have
recently
any
in
jobs in
talks
Jersey
with
City.
New Jersey Transit. They did add some more stops in the Bergen Lafayette neighborhood. They pulled a stop away down near Carey's Woods. We had them restore that stop. So we try to keep those lines of communication
But
open.
they're awful. New Jersey Transit is awful. Brandy, what would you do about transportation up in Ward A? Would you go with VIA? Would you maybe go with the shuttles? Would you
Right.
come up with something else?
So VIA as it stands, again, we want to think about the diversity just within Ward A alone. Depending on where you live in Ward A, VIA is very accessible or not as accessible. And so if we're thinking about a price tag of $7 million to residents, I would say VIA stands a lot of room for improvement. I spoke with a senior who lives in Lafayette who explained to me that she has to walk at least 2 blocks, often in a remote area, in order to get through traffic to get to VIA. So do I think VIA is the best we can do? No, I don't. And again, I'll reiterate, not at the tune of $7 million to our residents.
Maybe it's better in A. We don't have it that's so good in D, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
so good and good. I just want to be clear because VIA does have the option. If you are a senior, if you have disabilities, they will come directly to you and pick you up. You can call them for a direct pickup.
I think that's the complaints I heard, that when we call in D, that for the direct pickup, that they wait a long time for that
They wait
direct
a long
pickup.
time for the pickup.
Yeah.
Speaking of seniors, what can we do here in A to make the seniors' lives that much better? You know, a little more availability of the resources. Is there a way we can cut their tax bill with the seniors after they're 65 years old? Is there some way I can keep these seniors in Jersey City? Because this city, you know, they're on a fixed income, most of them, Social Security, maybe a pension. They're not having money to wave around. How can we make it that they can stay in the city and make it affordable for them? That's different with young couples and seniors. Seniors, we
Right.
need to put some emphasis on. Brandy, how would you make it easier for the seniors?
So seniors, one option that they have at this time is the senior freeze, and that does assist with taxes. I can't speak to what degree, but it does offer some assistance with their taxes. But definitely seniors do need additional recreation. They need resources. They also need to be supported. And speaking with a lot of our seniors who live in that 5-block radius that I spoke about on Ocean Avenue, that's another area where we need really strong enforcement, because those properties are currently managed by management companies who are not doing right by our seniors. So they need recreation, they need resources. Think about health. Let's bring some of their health needs and health services to the buildings that they live in so that they can easily access them. They need better transportation. One of the seniors that I spoke with told me that under the Healy administration, they really, really enjoyed traveling to Little League games. They found great pleasure in it. They were able to do that on a bus. They were able to socialize with their peers. But recreation, resources, and mainly supporting them.
Denise, how do we help them?
Helping the seniors.
Affordability, resources-wise, recreation.
So I've
How do we
helped a
help
lot of seniors apply for the Senior Freeze. It is a state program. I think we do need to look into maybe something possibly we can do at a local level to assist seniors with taxes. One of the main things that I'm working on now for seniors, Ward A, is like the senior building capital of Jersey City, right? We have a lot of seniors in Ward A, and we still need more housing for seniors. That's what I hear from seniors. We need to build senior housing. So one of the things that we're looking at in Bayfront is actually building some senior housing. We need more senior housing in this city. So we can't neglect our seniors. In addition, I know I speak about my push for a rec center and creating funding for that. When I say a rec center, I think we always think about the youth. And yes, it will be there for the youth. It'll be there for active adults. But in that is space for seniors. We have to have more recreation. We have the Maureen Collier Center, which is the only center on this side of the city for our seniors, and they need more. So I think that a lot of times our senior population.
Is that the only one in A?
Yeah, there's one in A and there's one in D.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's the city.
That's it. Maureen Collier, there's no other one.
No, and that's in B, Maureen
in-
Collier.
And
So
in A, what do you have?
there's no
There's
set
none?
city senior center, no. But there are senior activities that are offered at the Bethune Center, but it's not a senior center per se. But yes, we do have active senior activities at the Bethune Center. But in recreation, that includes seniors. Like that includes everyone. When I say a recreation center, it's not just for the kids. Yeah, we have to get
Everything,
everyone
yeah.
active. So yeah, we definitely have to pay attention to our seniors. We have 2 nursing homes in Ward A also. I visit them frequently. So we have a lot of seniors and we can't neglect them.
Now, as far as health at the senior centers or for seniors in this 5-block radius you talked about, how would we bring health professionals in? We could probably get the Jersey City Medical Center to do that.
So
Well,
we
to-
could work with our Office of Health, and we could also work with providers to come in, and it would benefit both our seniors as well as the providers, because they would be able to see a greater number of
Patients or clients,
patients
yeah.
at one time. This is something that I've coordinated in the community, health screenings and things of that sort, where you bring the providers in, they offer the services, we give a little incentive for our seniors to come and participate, and it's really a win for everybody. So why we're not actually doing it within our senior homes when we do have a number of them in A?
And
I don't
you
know.
said these people weren't doing right by the seniors in these senior buildings? or-
Yes, the management companies that own the buildings. I've
How is
heard
that
some really
possible in the
unfortunate
city of Jersey
stories.
City that we're not keeping an eye on that?
Pat, that's a great question. How is it possible? How is it happening? Why is it happening?
Denise?
I would have to know which buildings they are. Are they housing authority buildings? Are they private buildings?
I don't think I'd care if it's housing
Enforcement
authority
is
or private.
enforcement.
You've got to
Enforcement
make
is
sure the
enforcement.
seniors, if Bill O'Day was here, he'd be stomping around in that building in a minute. All right,
Yes,
we're out
and
of time
we
here.
We have sent many quality of life, many health inspectors to senior buildings. So yes, if it is
We have
something
enough
that
health
we know,
inspectors?
it
Because
has
that's
been
always, when
interest.
something happens, we're always told we don't have enough health inspectors. We have
They
enough?
have them, yeah. I
We
get
got enough?
reports all the time. They shut down places weekly.
Is Bohr still with us? Did he retire?
I have not seen
No,
them.
he was good. All right, listen, you got closing statements? You ready? You opened, so Denise, who opened? She opened with a closing statement. All right, if she did an opening statement, you can go with the closing statement.
Okay. I am looking for a third term because I want to finish the work that we've started. We've done a lot and there's still more to do. I believe that we are at a point where everything is changing. The administration is going to change, the mayor is going to change, and I think that that is a good thing because we need new energy, but I also believe that experience, past leadership, and results are important. It is not an easy thing to just jump into government. Everybody has their first try, of course, but I believe that in restructuring everything, continuity is important. I think you need someone there that has the experience, that can see things before they actually start happening because they've been in those seats before. And I believe that we can continue to move Ward A forward. Look, we already have our drills in the ground. We're already building affordable housing. That's not happening at that level anywhere else in the city. It took a lot of work. I've invested a lot of time, and I want to make sure that we move that forward. We want to make sure that our recreation centers are moving forward. I've taken a lot of time to do that. I've worked with the state to make sure that we're getting funding. We have to move these things forward. We want to see the opening of the Holiday Street Firehouse. We want to revive corridors like Ocean Avenue. And this is all work that has already started. So I believe that if you are willing to move Ward A forward, then this is what we should do. I think I have served well over the last 8 years. Is everything in the city perfect? No. But I think that a shining example of me serving well is what I said at the last debate. I was asked to join everyone's ticket. So if I was doing such a horrible job, I wouldn't have been their first pick. So I believe that no matter who you vote for, you should consider voting for Denise Ridley 3C. I am the first pick because I've been doing a great job.
You really want to do this another 4 years? That's a tough job.
It's a tough job, but you have to be committed.
Toughest job being the mayor or the ward council? Randy, you really want this job?
Absolutely.
4 years of this? All right, your closing statement. Why do you want to be it?
Absolutely. So if you're watching this stream, you can remember being 8 years old, 16 years old, and probably 24 years old. But more importantly in this moment, I want you to think about the 8-year span of time between those ages. Your growth and your development was significant. We can't say the same here in Ward A. For the last 8 years, we've been forced to live with crime, increases in traffic, and rent, while our councilwoman voted for the highest tax increase in recent Jersey City history in 22 years. Now, this administration is on the ballot. They're asking us for more when all we've been given is less. Over the last 8 years, we've had fewer firehouses than we had 8 years ago in Ward A. Parks and recreation services are tremendously down. Vote for change. Make the new voice your choice in Ward A. Brandy Warren, 1C on your ballot on the McGreevy ticket.
All right, that wraps up our runoff debate here for Ward A. Please come out and vote. You got vote by mail. There's no early voting. You have to go to the polling center on December the 2nd, but please vote for one of these two candidates. Rewatch this debate a few times. Make an informed decision. I'm Pat O'Melia. Thank you, Denise Ridley. Thank you, Brandy Warren. And thank you for watching. Good night.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Pat.
Pat.